This meeting is being recorded. Hi guys, welcome to the Recoil lecture. We're going to talk about Recoil. Basically, it is a state management tool that allows you to create atoms of state that any component inside of your React tree can subscribe to. So anytime that the state is updated by any of the components, all the components will update as well. Right now we just have a basic React app right here with no recoil. The front end is designed just to look like the actual tree, the DOM tree here. So you can see that the app is rendering a container, and inside the container you're rendering two different parent components, and then those parent components are rendering the children, and so on and so forth. So what we want to do right now, all the app does is change color of the component whenever you click on it. And what we want to do is basically make it so that whenever you click on a component, all of the components in that same level will also re-render. I didn't spell checkout right. Cool. Just like this. So everything in the same level re-renders. Great. All right, so how would you do that in a normal React app? So let's just focus on the parents, right? So we have two parents underneath this container, and currently they are just updating their own color, but we want to make it so that when you click one parent, the other parent component also changes its color. How would you do that? Question for the floor.
Could we use state?
Yeah. So how this works is you have a container that sets its own color, right? And whenever you click on the container component, it'll change the color. And the state is the color is determined just by this right here, by the state of that component. It passes its color down to the props of this thing, which is basically the title tag is just this oval. And whenever you click it, it changes the color. So each one of the components, parents, children, all have this title tag that is rendering out the color and displaying the current color in the state. So you have a container state, and each one has its own local state of the color. And each one has a click event to where when you click it, it just changes the color of the local component. So with the container and the parent, how would we get it so that the both parents update their color whenever you click one?
Where is the state being stored currently?
Inside,
right?
Inside the component itself. So the parent stores the state in itself for its color.
And where is the parent in the, I guess, hierarchy?
The hierarchy that it's underneath the container. So you have your container, and then you have two parents.
So why don't both of them update then if it has state?
Because each one is being rendered as a sibling to the other. So the state here for the container is for the container itself. And the state here is the color of the parent itself, right? So how would you get both parents to update when one is changed?
Are you asking me or
anybody?
I'll answer, or the way I think I would do it anyway.
How would you do it?
So I would have a piece of state in the container, and I would pass that down via a function to both of my parents, and I'd have their color change depending upon the state of that container.
Exactly, right? So you just need to take the state that's in parent, right, and hoist it up to the component above it so that you can pass it down to both components through props, and they're sharing the same state at that higher level. Perfect, Jack. That was excellent. Right. Before we do that, does everyone understand how to use a functional component? Because that's really important, and I forgot to talk about that. Yes? All right.
What's the
Good.
difference?
Right. So the difference, thank you, Antonio, is that in a class component, you're going to have state like this, right? This is how you're going to write state. And whenever you need to change state, you have to call this.setState, and you have to do it here like this, right? And the props are implicitly included inside of the class. So you do this.props whenever you need to use that. So the difference between the way that it's written here as a class is that state is defined like this. And the difference in a functional component is you use something that React has called the useState hook, and you define state like this. Does anyone have questions on how this works? Does everyone know how to use the useState hook? Yeah, good. So basically all it does is useState will take a default value of the state, and you can destructure like this to set this variable equal to that default value, and this set color is going to be equal to a function that allows you to update that value. And that's basically the difference. So as long as you know how to use state, you can use the useState hook, you can use the recoil state. So as Jack was saying, we need to take this state here in the parent and hoist it up to the container so that both parents can share the same state, right? So we're going to change this to parent color and this to set parent color, right? And we're going to change this one to change parent color. We're going to change it to set parent color, right? So now what do? We have to pass this down to the parent component so that whenever we click in the parent component, it will update the state here in the container. So we need to pass it down to both of the parent components. So we'll just do the color as equal to the parent color, and we'll give it a handle click, which is going to be equal to the change parent color, right? Everyone clear on this? And then in the parent component, in a functional component, you have to explicitly say that you want the props to be translated. So you can do it like this, where you will give the onClick function of the, or onClick event of the parent props dot, as we named it over here, handle click, right? Refers to the change parent color. So we'll just do handle click. And then the color is going to be props dot color, right? So let's go over to the app and see if it works. Both of these should re-render. Perfect, we did it. The one thing I want to say is because props, if you look at it here in our parent, if you look at props, it is structured the same way as an object. You can use JavaScript restructuring to basically make it easier on yourself and set a variable equal to the value of that key as long as you name it the same thing as in the key. So you can take away the props here and just do handle click and color. Any questions about that? Nope, cool. So what if we want to do the same thing for the children, right? We're going to take away the grandchildren, not worry about them. What if we want them to also update and all be the same color when they change? What do we need to do? Where
Take
do we
away
need
their
to
allowance.
take away their allowance and say, children, stop it? Where do you want to put the state?
Would it be similar to the way we did it the first time?
I think so, yeah. Are we just going to raise it up to the parent? Does that make sense?
Wait, so each of the parents have 2 children, right?
Yep, each
And
parent.
we want all 4 of the children to change?
Yeah, we want all 4 of the children to change.
Then we need to go all the way back up to container, right?
Why?
Because the parents are siblings.
Okay. Yeah, the parents
And
are siblings.
they don't share the children. The container contains all of the children, but each parent only contains 2 of the children.
Yeah, Jack, MVP, because these
Hack
children are
Matrix.
siblings inside of the parent, right? And the parents are siblings, so if they're not sharing the same state, then whenever you basically do it, then only these 2 children will re-render. So we'll do it that way really quickly, just to show what Jack is talking about. That if you only move this state up to the parent component above it, then you're going to have this problem of, we'll have child color, right? We'll do the same thing that we did before, set child color, and okay.
What is that stop propagation though?
Anyone know that? Anyone have a hint on or a guess on why there's stop propagation here, but not on this one right here in the top level? Oh, that makes sense. Anyone know what stop propagation does?
It's like prevent default, right?
Kind
Like
of,
keeps it
yeah.
from
So
re-rendering.
let's finish
What is
this.
Does it
propagation?
stop it from bubbling?
Exactly, yeah. It stops it from bubbling up, right? So let's finish this out so we don't have this error, and then we'll talk about why we have stop propagation here. So in the parent, we have child color, so we can do the exact same thing as before and give it a color is equal to the child color, right? And a handle click that is equal to the change child color, right? And we can just copy this here and get rid of that. And then we go into our child. We can use destructuring to pull those 2 props out. Oops, called it handle click. And then we just do the exact same thing. Okay. So now we have these back, and whenever you click it, only these 2 are changing because the parent is rendering the 2 children as siblings. And you have 2 different parents. You have a parent here that renders its 2 children, and its 2 children know about the state in the parent, but the 2 children that are in the other parent don't know about that state in the sibling parent. So you can't share them unless you hoist it up further to the container component. Now the stop propagation, if you look at this tree, what really is happening in the elements is or we'll just look at the components, that why is this not working? Anybody know why our components aren't showing up? Oh, there we go, cool. The container basically is a div around the entire page. So when you click on a parent div, it triggers its on-click event, which is to change its color, but it also would trigger the higher, that event would bubble up to the higher div, which also has an on-click event to change the color of the container. So you use this stop propagation so that only the target on the very bottom of the target that's clicked directly, the most direct one, triggers that on-click event. Make sense?
So if you took out the stop propagation, would all of them change color then? Or like all of the ones above it?
Yeah, so I took it out of the parent and now see container is changing as well. Yeah. Good catch. Right. So we are passing down color and handle click to the parent, and the parents are passing it down to their children. But the problem here is that they are only rendering their 2 children, and we want all 4 to render. So we need to take this and hoist it up higher to the container, right? So thankfully we don't have to do any name changes because we did that previously in the parent component. but we do have to keep passing this down. So we have to, we'll call this child click is going to be equal to change child color, and child color is going to be equal to child color. Let's copy this, get rid of that one. Okay, so now in our parent, we have to also take out the child color from here and the handle or the child click prop that we just made. And then we have to continue to pass that down to its children. So you have child click, and this one is also going to be child click. Okay. So, yay! Now we got it to where all four are rendering. Perfect.
Robert, this seems like a lot of passing down of props.
I
Like, at all
know.
levels.
Isn't it a giant mess that you have to destructure out 4 different props for the parent and pass it down to the child? It is not fun. So
It doesn't seem very
imagine
dry.
it's not very dry. And imagine if you have to pass that down to the grandchildren as well. What if you want all the grandchildren to re-render? You're gonna have to hoist that again all the way up to the container to get all of them to render properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve that with Recoil, okay? I just got a warning that I got 10 more minutes left in my non-premium Zoom. So we'll have to come back whenever it ends. So obviously, when you want to get Recoil, you have to create a React app and just install Recoil, right? And there are 3 things that you need to get Recoil working. You need Recoil root. You need to go to your top level component where you want to start using Recoil. You need to wrap it in Recoil root. Then you need to write atoms, which again are these little pieces of state that the components can subscribe to. And then you just have to import those atoms into your components and use them the same way you would use a use state hook like this. So we are going to do that now. Does that sound okay? Yeah?
Hella down.
What'd you say? Hella down? Me too. Great. So let's go to the app and we're just going to import, right, from Recoil, the Recoil root. And then you just want to wrap whatever you want to use, wherever you want to use Recoil below that, you just want to wrap that in Recoil root. And voila, now you can use Recoil anywhere underneath here. The next step is to write the atoms. So what I like to do is to just create an atoms folder. And then inside this folder, we're going to create, you can create multiple files with different atoms. You can write them anywhere in your application and import them wherever you want. So we'll just call this color state because that's what we're dealing with right now. And the first, yes, Jeff.
Robert, can we go back 2 steps? You're importing what's it's called there on line 4, Recoil root from Recoil. Mm-hmm. Where did the Recoil file come from?
npm install Recoil.
Okay.
That's all you have to do. Yep. Well, I didn't do it because I had done it previously. But yeah, you have to just go to Recoil and follow the installation guide and get Recoil on in your application, and then you can use it.
Okay. And for just for posterity, I suppose, that would be, you could find that file under node modules, or do you know where to find the Recoil file?
Yeah, it's going to appear in your package JSON here. You can see that you've installed it properly, that it's one of your dependencies. And then, yeah, it should also appear in the node modules, but node modules are crazy hard to look through. Huh?
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So you can see that it's working as long as it's one of your dependencies here. Okay, so now that we got it installed and we've wrapped our root here, we are writing out our atom. So you want to import from Recoil, you want to import the atom function here in this file. And then you write an atom as a constant. You call it whatever you want to call it. So we're going to deal with the container color. And we're going to set it equal to an atom, right? And the atom is a function that takes an object. So you give it an object. The object will have a key, which will be equal to some unique string or some unique thing that no other atom will share. So it has to be unique, and you can just call it the same thing as your constant if you want, as long as no other atom is named container color. And then you give it a default, and the default is just like when you use the useState hook, you give it a default, you do the same thing here. So we're gonna just take this default from here, we're gonna put it there, and now we just need to make sure that we are exporting this constant from this file so that we can import it to another file. So we're gonna go into our container, we're going to import use recoil state from recoil, and we're going to import our, what did we call this? Container color from, in our tree, we're in components right now, so we need to go up a level, up a file, over to atoms, and then to color state. And now, to get this working, all you have to do is change use state to recoil state, and change this to the atom that you've imported. So now if you look in the app, we can change this, and it works the exact same as use state. This right now isn't very effective because you're not sharing that atom with any other component, so it's not super impressive. But if we want to, let's say, do it in the parents, right? We're just going to go back to our color state here. We're going to basically copy this. Just name this atom parent color. Copy the color from the state here that we have. Set that to the default. Whoops, I copied it again. Copy this color here, set it to the default for the atom, and then we'll go to our parent. Well, we'll go to the container. We'll copy these import lines that we just did over to the parent, and we can just change this to parent color and change this to parent color, the value that we're using, and change recoil, change state, use state to recoil state. And now when you click here, both re-render, and if you look at the highlights of what's actually re-rendering, the container doesn't have to re-render because the state wasn't hoisted up to that. It's not dependent on the state that the parent is using. So only parents and its children have to re-render. And that's kind of the basis of what Recoil allows you to do with sharing state. It allows you a lot of other things and a lot of other functions and things that you can do. But this is, I think, the biggest thing that will help you when you're doing your projects, is being able to kind of consolidate state into these little pieces that you can share with however many components that you want. Does anyone have any questions right now? No. Okay, so we are going to stop and come back right after I open up another meeting and finish this out and do Q&As. That sound good? Okay, so we're at the point where we can render these parents and they re-render without re-rendering the thing above them, and they're subscribed to the same state. So we just want to do the same thing for the child, right? What step do we need to do first? We have written an atom for the container. We've written an atom for the parent. So what do we need to do if we want an atom that the children can subscribe to?
Do these children have access to Recoil yet?
No, they do not. They
Right.
do to the extent that they are underneath the recoil root because the container is containing all of these elements, but we haven't imported the recoil state yet, use recoil state that we have right here, but I prefer to do something else before I import that.
I assume that something else is go to colorstate.js and then fill out the
Yes, Jeff,
yeah.
that's it. That's exactly it. So we'll just copy this, change this to child color, copy over the default here, pop that there. Then what do we do here?
Import.
You import. Yep, that was it. So you just import these really quickly. Change this to what? What did we call it? That atom. And what do we do with the use state here?
Burn it down.
You
No,
change it to
no, that wasn't good.
use recoil state, and then
Yes.
instead of the string inside, it's the child color, right?
Yeah, you give it the same reference to the
That's what I
atom.
meant.
Well, then you were correct as well, Antonio. Great. So what should be happening? Hey, only the child are re-rendering. They're all changing on the same level. And they're just re-rendering their grandchildren, but not having to re-render the container or the parents. So in this way, Recoil makes your apps a lot more efficient because you don't have to deal with all of the things above re-rendering or moving state around. Okay, last one, grandchildren. Somebody walk me through it.
We might need a variable for this.
What variable?
Back in that color state.
Back in color state. We need another atom, right? Again, we can basically just copy this, change it to Grand's child color. Give it the same default. And then what? Now that we wrote our atom, what do we do?
Import it.
Import it. Copy these two lines again.
It's not very dry, Robert.
No, but it's drier than putting all the state up into the container and passing all that down all the time to every single component.
You're right.
So when's the lecture on the library that specifically handles all the import statements for us?
I think that's just change React entirely, so you never have to import again.
Oh.
I don't know. Automatic imports. Okay, let's check it out. I messed something up. What's wrong?
You wrote child color.
I did write child color like an idiot. Good.
Or just like someone who's not paying attention or testing us.
That's mostly it. Thank you.
I would like to point out that you can totally do code splitting and do something called bundling, and then
All of them will just import their deal.
well, you can merge them.
Ah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you. So yeah, now we got what we wanted working. It's all re-rendering. There's a lot of other stuff that you can do with Recoil. This is just the very basic intro of how to set it up. Remember, all you have to do is wrap a container element in this Recoil root. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. The first thing you need to do is npmi recoil, right? And then you import the recoil root, wrap it in the top element that you want to render everything else beneath. What happened? Oh, okay. And then you're going to write your atoms, and you're going to import those atoms wherever you want to use them in your components. Questions?